Good morning. Woohoo! Hope you're doing well. Happy Cinco de Mayo. It's May 5th, little special episode. I thought I'd put this together for you. I listened to the episode last night, the podcast, Sports Card Nonsense did, talking to Evan Mathis about card trimming. I wanted to share my thoughts, my comments, my ideas. What I learned. What happened? Well, let me start with this statement, and I've made this statement a lot. People do not want accurate grades. They want favorable grades. As soon as you understand that statement, everything else will become clear. Let's talk about the other day. I saw two cases of a guy who had a mantle graded. I'll talk specifically to Ty on Bench Clear Media. Picked up a card in West Virginia from a collection. The guy had an old Mickey Mantle card. The Mickey Mantle card was sent in to both PSA and both to SGC and came back as authentic altered. And when pressed on it, I believe the reason for it was the card size did not fit. So it was therefore assumed to be altered, therefore trimmed. Collector's Dream, another channel to check out. Orlando did a similar video sharing his story where he pressed the issue and again was told, got a letter saying that, again, this card that he had was authentic, altered because it did not make the right specs. The reason I'm bringing this story up to you is that this card's got graded authentic, altered because the grading company simply said that the size of the card does not match what we believe it should. And therefore, that's evidence enough to say it's altered. But that's faulty logic because if you understand how these cards are made, they often were not always the same size, right? And back in the 50s, I mean, think about this. Back in the 50s, they were hand cut likely. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing that, but their manual process was being made and they probably weren't very accurate. So if you're going to punish someone, 50 years later for cutting, well, during that time, right, look at the 80s, 90s, people started looking at this going, hold on. It's the corners aren't sharp because what do people talk about in the 60s, 70s? Where the corners look, where the edges look? What's the condition of it? Well, if I can trim off the fuzzy side and it looks really good, that's a good condition, right? You good with that? Yeah, it looks good to me. It's fine. And then people started going, well, is everybody trimming these cards? Maybe they are. What are the specs? What size should cards be? And then they started figuring that out. My point this whole story is that it was never about accuracy. No one ever went back to say, well, what was the specification used when this batch of cards was printed on this printer? No. It's about favorable grades. So it's always been about me. It's always been about favorable. So let me bring you up to the Evans conversation, Evan Mathis, and I'll call him Evan. One of the things he says is, look, there's two ways to look at this when he put the video. You either accept it or you don't. You either accept the fact that cards are trimmed and some of the cards and many of the cards around you are trimmed, or you don't. And you're a purist and you're disgusted and appalled by it. But this is kind of like thinking your parents don't have sex, because they do. Your parents fuck. You can pretend like they don't, or you can accept the fact they do. And I'm not telling you every card's trimmed, but go back to this. Look, back in the 80s, 90s, at some point, some guy came across a card and he got his trimmed and he got a better score for it and he made more money. And the other guys, well, if you trimmed it at home with your scissors, well, I'm going to do it. And I'm sure at some time, a lot of people were doing this. Now, this is one of my arguments have always been about cards. Since we do not invest in the technology to police this or really, really punish this or extract these altered cards or dealing with them, they just continue to recirculate. Because again, an altered card is still an authentic card, right? It could just be, think about this. Those authentic slab cards could just be cracked, trimmed up again, and resubmitted until they get through the system. And that is part of this game. That's why when Evan said tonight, well, you don't understand, everybody's doing it. My complaints about Evan was he wouldn't give specifics. He didn't even lie and say, well, I've seen it done by Frank, Joe, and Betty. He wouldn't say that. He says he's never seen someone else do it. He speculates a lot. He makes a lot of assumptions. He also says he didn't do it a lot. He only did it a few times. And he doesn't really go into reasons for it. So I don't really take it as like, oh, Evan's saying the whole world's ruined. I think the population of alter cards, in my opinion, is probably 1 in 10. Does that ruin the hobby? No. I think what we need to do as a hobby is look at what do we do to make this hobby better? I hate to say this. If you look at tag grading, they're probably in the best position technology-wise to do this. PSA is probably in the best situation money-wise to do it. But someone should just simply say, look, We're going to come up with a process that's going to actually vet the authenticity of cards. We're going to do sampling of the card, whatever is, spectral analysis, Dead Sea Scroll, whatever. It'll cost more money to do this process. At the end of the process, we're going to encapsulate it into an encapsulation process that is going to be irreversible, right? Tamper-proof, tamper-resistant, like something like, that you put the U.S. Constitution in. In that process itself, if you sampled the document, the card, vetted it, got the specs of it, knew every corner, every inch, how many goddamn molecules make up the piece of paper if you wanted to do that. Wouldn't that add value? Is there anything wrong with using that much science? Now, I know I'm killing it. I know I'm way over, that's way too much, Ziggy. But my point is, guys, why are we trusting fucking human beings in this shit? Humans are just by nature corruptible, right? Money. They're just by nature corruptible. So the thing I think the whole Evan interview is, guys, I love this hobby. I really do. I enjoy it. It's a hobby. It's fun. That's why I kind of made the comment yesterday. If we trim all the cards, can we make it a hobby again? Like if all these cards really were just fun to play with and collect and they were Monopoly cards, would it be fun then? Like, I think the cool thing is there's the lottery gambling. You can find rarity. You can find something special. You could not do that in the 80s and 90s. That's why I like this hobby more today. Back in the 80s and 90s, you just could find a rookie card. Oh, I got my Don Mattingly. Great. And so will, however many people in the print run, they'll all get that too. But if I could be one of 10 that gets the gold Don Mattingly with an autograph, even better. I understand that, man. That's what's kind of cool. So what's my point of this? I want to see the hobby become a better place. I love the fact everybody's talking about this. I love the fact people are passionate about it. Let me also say this too. All you passionate bastards who are all up in arms and claiming that you're all against trimmed cards, Mike Giuseppe, I think that's your name. I don't want to see you supporting repacks. Repacks, the reason repacks are so successful is because people put altered, trimmed, fake, whatever, stolen cards go into repacks. Repacks, a great way to just they're awful. Even the best repack can be hijacked by someone else. You can be a great repacker and then someone steals your repack and puts stolen cards in and then resells your repack. Don't do repacks. Just don't do them. Does this make sense? What else did I want to take away from that? I thought it was interesting how Evan talked about putting videos together about removing, off of the stickers, gum residue. I mean, it's a really good point. Like any of those stickers that's coming in a PSA 10 had to have some type of doctoring on it, which again, I go back and forth. I've never myself used the Kurtz Care, the Striving 10s, these guys. I know who they are. I know how to reach out to them. I don't know, man. I mean, I've had cards too that have been like I had that card I sold to a baseball card collector, investor, dealer in that order. Well, it's because it had dings in it. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with a damaged card. In the back of my head, I know that had that card graded a PSA 9 or 10, it's going to get 3, 4, 5 times what I got for it. That's a major incentive for somebody, right? There's money on the bone. I mean, and that's, let me go back to this too. That's value-added reselling, right? You're actually you're adding value to something the manufacturer screwed up to make the resale better. Isn't that kind of interesting? We do that all the time with other things. I know. I don't want to be seen as, oh, Ziggy's all pro trimming, pro alteration. I'm not. I'm pro hobby. I want to make it better. And maybe the hobby needs a better voice on what is better. Clearly, this is a very, I tell you, the people most pissed about it, those people who are buying these high-end, expensive cards, right? Like if you're Jeff Wilson and you're spending a ton of money on these PSA 10s, which I said earlier is a mistake. I'd rather buy raw and raw to grade, right? It's so funny how many, like that's where the grind is, man. Raw to grade is where the grind is. Knowing what to go after, knowing how to go after it. I was watching, I think it's Little Victories, one of the best channels out there. Just a smart young man on putting that. Anyway, I don't want to take this video too long. Hope this makes sense. Definitely enjoyed the Evan Mathis video. Hope you have a great Cinco de Mayo. Listen to it. If you guys are talking to Sports Card Nonsense, tell them Ziggy, put together a nice little review and tell them hi. I really wish they had gotten back to me. It is what it is. I don't listen to podcasts, so I don't think I'll hear much from them. Anyway, tell them to welcome to the YouTube world. Come over to YouTube world sometime and come on my channel sometime. Oh, I know. They don't punch down, right? They don't punch down. I did hear them mention my name in the podcast. You listen to the end? And it's because I give them grief on SGC. Totally different topic. We'll talk about that later. SGC, just a bunch of wizards. They don't even authenticate the